Alright, it's gonna be one of those games. What I've got for you today is a best of 5 series that's the finals of the Korean StarCraft League weekly number 22. In game number 1, we find ourselves on the map Ancient Cistern, and spawning right here in the top right hand corner, playing with the blue Terran as CVs. We're looking inside of the main base of GuMiho. His opponent in the opposite corner, playing right here with the red Zerg drones, and I think going indeed for the hatchery first. Likewise also from South Korea, we have none other than Ragnarok. Playing under his actual name, but he's better known under the ID of Ragnarok. Ancient Cistern is normally gonna be the Zerg's map pick. Generally speaking, a lot of the maps in this current map pool of StarCraft 2 are good for Terran, especially in the TVZ and the TVP matchups, but yeah, this is gonna be a map pick that I think Ragnarok has chosen, just because a lot of Zergs seem to enjoy playing against Terran on Ancient, and apparently GuMiho will have none of it. He wants this particular game to end within the first couple minutes. This is when Ragnarok figures out exactly what he's playing against, and this is already a little bit tricky. Are we gonna be pulling drones? Okay, we're not really gonna pull that many workers here. A lot of Zerg players, okay, yeah, a lot of Zerg players will pull drones and they will try and shut this down before it really lays eggs, but it's tricky to go ahead and do so when that bunker is already like halfway done. So instead, we're gonna go for a second gas, we're gonna go for the Roach Warren here, and I believe we're gonna be giving up on that natural expansion. One thing that Ragnarok is trying to do here is to get the Queen out. Problem is, how in the world is that Queen ever going to join up with its friend in the main base? I've got a feeling that Brenda over here, yeah, she can run, but she can't hide. She's very slow off creep. I mean, she's buying a bit of time, but I wouldn't have minded seeing that, well, Queen cancelled, just because it's gonna make things a bit easier. Maybe Ragnarok is hoping that this is gonna buy enough time and he can get roaches going? I mean, yeah, he starts them up right now. A couple Zerglings as well. Running across the map, an Overlord actually gets spotted here. That's super annoying. You really do need an Overlord here in order to make some Ravagers, preferably, but sacrificing some of the Lings over here in exchange for some of those Marines is not bad, but eventually, the Queen over in Natural, it died for nothing as the hatchery does fall. At least you got a little bit of larva, I suppose, right? You can make that Overlord over here as well. So that's, I guess, one advantage of that expansion, but in the end, this is a fantastic start, of course, for Gumi. The question is, okay, is Gumi going to fall back at all? Apparently not, no. As a matter of fact, we've decided to go for a tech lab over here, and he started up some Marauders. Marauders and Marines, it's a classic unit composition, but normally it's not played off of one base. What Ragnarok is currently trying to do is, yeah, bile down that bunker. So it takes about 7 corrosive biles without repairs to be able to shut it down, and eventually indeed, that bunker will end up falling. The Ravagers are certainly going to be the fastest units out on the battlefield. You can see that GuMiho is taking up shop right over here on the high ground. He wants to get that high ground advantage. Don't do it, Roach! Think of Brenda! Well, now you'll see the Marauder at the very least, but that Roach is super dead. What in the world are we gonna do against this? Stimpack is even coming up. Concussive shells at this point are done, so that's a nice little slowdown right here. That's gonna make picking off those Ravagers a lot easier. Even just a single Marauder here is huge. A second one, though, does show up. Ragnarok has decided to go into the link speed as well, and now he's, well, pulled most of the workers out of gas. He's remaking the natural expansion, but I just don't see how he's ever going to get an efficient trade here. This is certainly not an easy game, though, here for Gumi. But I think his unit composition is just a lot better. Yeah. Oftentimes, StarCraft 2 is a numbers game, right? And he's just always had larger amounts of units, and that will make the aggression a whole lot easier. Even a starport is coming up right now. We're gonna go into a tech lab right here next to the factory too. So GuMiho's follow-up is gonna be, I guess, Banshees? Could even be, if he's feeling really crazy, Battlecruisers. I mean, that is a unit that I feel like, yeah, GuMiho and Battlecruisers, they go hand in hand. It's something we see very frequently, but I don't think he really needs it, although yeah, he could certainly do that if he wants to. Honestly, though, I don't even really know if he needs it. He's even gonna scan over here to get rid of that creep tumor. Can we snipe the creep tumor on the high ground as well? I guess we will. Overlord's in a little bit of trouble. Command center coming up on the low ground. I'm assuming it is gonna be Banshee play as well, so if Roaches ever decide to get adventurous and they move across the map, they will get absolutely shut down as well. And this game number 1 in this best of 5 series is, I think, GuMiho from start to finish. This is a GuMiho classic. The man loves playing cheesy games when he believes he's a little bit better than you. And lately, GuMiho seems to be on absolute fire. That's the hatchery going down a second time. Well, Ragnarok is still sitting in the game, but I've got a feeling there's a whole lot of nothing that he can actually do about this. I mean, it's still, of course, one base versus one base. He doesn't quite realize yet that there is another command center down here on the low ground. So he hasn't actually seen it yet. He wants to overwhelm these Marines and Marauders, but I don't think that's really going to happen. All right. A hatchery does start up for a third time. Scanning the main base here reveals what is happening, and, well, it turns out there's a whole lot of nothing. He even puts down the Baling Nest within the scan's vision range? I mean, the odds, I guess... Okay, he sees the Banshee right now, it doesn't matter. I was gonna say, the odds of GuMiho actually continuously looking while that scan was going down are very low, I guess, but... Anyways, a Baling Bust really wouldn't have worked particularly well here because GuMiho has already got a Banshee. Okay, so next up we find ourselves on the map Goresvin, and GuMiho is once again starting off this game by sending an SCV towards the other side of the map. Now, there's only a single one. Yeah, there's only a single SCV. Supply depot at this point is finished up. He could certainly, well, build another barracks over here inside of the main base if he wants to, but what's kind of funny is that I think every single Korean TVZ match that I've seen over the last month, it's featured those double barracks openers over here on the low ground, right? That seems to be what all the top tier Terrans from Korea like to play right now. But apparently not GuMiho. He's gonna go for a cheeky little proxy Rex. Now, what exactly will this achieve though? We've got ourselves double gas in the main base as well. So I would imagine this is gonna be some Reaper production. Ragnarok is gonna scout this out in just a moment as well, so yeah, he'll see what he's playing against. And maybe he'll panic for just a bit, because, well, he sees this barracks right around the same time that he started up his spawning pool. Is once again a hatch into a gas, into a pool right here from the Zerg, so it's not like he can really do that much about it, but... SCV is gonna continue being a nuisance here. Are we gonna build a bunker? Yeah, we are, okay. I was gonna say, if Ragnarok would have not respected this at all... Oh, this is so annoying. And he didn't send a single drone down to the low ground, so look at him trying to restart the build there many times. The idea is that you can't actually control where the SCV is located while it's building a structure. So by constantly stopping the production there and by restarting the production of that bunker, GuMiho is trying to get into a position where that drone cannot attack him. Anyways, Lings are coming up right now. Reaper decides to go straight into the main base. Any drone kill here would be nice. I would say he wants at least a single drone, but... Okay, he's gonna get one. Maybe two? Okay, nah, not a second. I was gonna say, honestly, getting one is already a little bit ambitious. SCV right now also hiding inside of that bunker, and we're gonna start being an absolute nuisance here by shooting at that natural. The problem is, of course, that this is Legacy of the Void, and... Well, those Reapers, they're not as powerful as they once used to be. By the way, the double gas expenditure right here from GuMiho, he's already got a starport here. 2.5 minutes into the game is when he roughly started up that starport. That's actually incredibly early. Look at that SCV over there as well. Go back in, go back in, go back. Oh, he's not gonna make it. Alright. Yeah, in the end, these Reapers don't really achieve that much, but at the very least... They've been keeping the Zerg player occupied, right? And I think we really need to keep our eye out on what exactly this starport is gonna do. I mean, a couple Zerglings here being annoying. Yeah, Ragnarok does not have vision of that starport, so he doesn't quite realize what's happening. Okay. So, there's still no command center. Well, okay, there we go. I was gonna say, we still don't have a second command center. It's gonna be a Reaper cheese into a Battlecruiser follow-up. Got a feeling that this fusion core could have been built a little bit earlier. I mean, he's had the resources for it for a bit, but I guess he was preoccupied. And now finally is where we're gonna put down, I guess, another command center. This command center, though, is so incredibly late. I don't even really know if he can properly afford it. I mean, he starts it up right now. The thing is, a Battlecruiser, it's 400 minerals and 300 gas, and GuMiho is gonna have to save up some of his money. I mean, it also basically costs a supply depot. I don't think this is quite gonna line up. Good scout here as well, though, by our Zerg player. He's gonna see this right now, and he did indeed spot that there is gonna be a tech lab right there on that starport. So, knowing that he's playing against Gumi here, it could still certainly be Banshees. It could even be Ravens. Okay, but I think it's safe to assume that Ragnarok is playing against the Battlecruiser start. Okay, this BC though, even though this is like quick, it still feels like it takes forever until it eventually gets across the map. It's gonna be there at like the 5-minute mark. maybe a little bit later than that, but considering this is a one-base opener, Ragnarok really doesn't need to get all too adventurous here with his bases either, right? I mean, he's only just now started up a third. In a normal game, I would consider this third hatchery to be quite late, but in a game like this, I really don't mind it. Just try to stay safe. He should certainly fire up a couple of spores, though, at like 450, 455. I think that would be a good time. Baling Nest is nice, I guess, if it would be a Hellion run by. Can we start up a couple spores, Rack? I certainly would like to. It's gonna be Yamato gun research as well. That's the weapon refit. You only ever go for that research if you plan on going for multiple Battlecruisers. Viking here will get sniped. We still don't have any spores. That honestly... Okay, there we go. That honestly surprises me a bit. He starts up 3 of them right now, but it's a bit late. There's the Battlecruiser. Where are we gonna go? Straight across the map towards the top left-hand corner. This is not something that Ragnarok actually has vision of, but GuMiho is immediately gonna turn its nose around right over there on that Battlecruiser, and it is gonna start harassing the mineral line. Okay, actually good timing right there on the spores. The timing I suggested was a little bit too early. In the end, is this open or justified here for Gumi? Mistransfusion right there by Ragnarok, so that's a little unfortunate. Don't lose the Battlecruiser. I mean, that would answer my question immediately. Is this open or justified? Assuming the Battlecruiser is alive, honestly, no, I don't think it's particularly great here for the Terran. But if he would have lost that Battlecruiser, it would have basically been GG. Lair's gonna finish up here in just a moment for Mr. Ragnarok. What exactly are we gonna do? I'm assuming we're gonna pump out a Spire right away. At the very least, seeing a Battlecruiser would inspire me. Lowko, you're so funny. I'm gonna hit the like button. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Anyways, he is indeed gonna put down a Spire here in the natural expansion. I think that's an excellent choice. He doesn't really know exactly what he's playing against, but a single Battlecruiser. I mean, when there's smoke, there's fire. A lot of Terran openers do indeed just feature a single BC, but with a strange start like this, I would be very surprised if the Terran just decides to go for a single Battlecruiser. And now indeed he's got confirmation that a second BC has made its way across the map. We're gonna Yamato cannon down the high energy queen as well. Lovely move here, but that Spire, it's not to be underestimated. The main thing I dislike here about the Zerg unit composition is this focus on Ling Bane. I mean, he could go into Mutas, I suppose, but usually I think a Roach Ravager into Corruptor is a little bit nicer against Battlecruiser play. Especially because Battlecruiser play from Gumi, it usually leads towards Terran Mech. That being said, not in this game. 4th hatchery is gonna have to be cancelled. I would prefer seeing it over here, actually, just because that's gonna be a much easier location to defend for those queens, but... Anyways, it is going to be a bio transition, so Ling Bane should work out quite nicely here for the Terran. But the thing is, or for the Zerg rather, the thing is the Zerg doesn't know what he's playing against. It is indeed going to be Mutas. Okay. Okay, 8 Mutalisks are coming up. This is interesting. So Mutas against Battlecruisers, they're not really that great of a unit. The thing is, of course, that Terran doesn't quite realize what he's playing against either. And this could actually work out decently well for the Zerg. He just needs to get the jump on any of these units, right? If he can catch one of the Battlecruisers off guard and they don't have tactical jump available and they're not, you know, joined by their buddies, there's a good chance that he's going to be able to hold it quite comfortably. He can maybe snipe one of the Battlecruisers. I actually don't mind this idea all too much, though. Especially if it would have been Terran Mech. Yeah, we're going to go for a missile turret right now. GuMiho doesn't realize what he's playing against, although he may have gotten a glimpse right over there of one of those Mutas. Okay, Mutas are gonna jump over here at the natural or at the 3rd base. Couple Yamato cannons are going down immediately. So that's -2 Mutas. BC over here on the left side is gonna continue the harassment. It's not bad, the Mutas, but they have achieved very little up to this point. Okay, here's the first bit of damage. These Marines don't have Stimpak yet. They don't have combat shields. They don't have a whole lot of anything. So they are gonna get sniped for basically free, and this harassment is starting to look a little bit better right now here. Yeah, it's just that you don't really get an answer against these Battlecruisers. They're very tanky units. And in general, they're actually also quite mobile, right? When you have that tactical jump available and they can just jump away, it's very difficult for the Zerg to be able to catch them, which is the reason why I think we have Corruptors coming up right now. Okay, so we're gonna go for a small round of Corruptors here. I guess it's just to try and keep these BCs occupied. He's gonna jump this one back home. And it indeed is also going to get back to safety here, close to the 3rd command center. Now that's weird. Ha. Okay, so GuMiho, he's gone for a tech. Okay, so this is strange. He's decided to go for a one-base Battlecruiser opener. That alone is already very weird. But his follow-up here is Stimpack together with combat shields. Ay, ay, ay. Now, however, additional factories went down. Yeah, so we're at 5 barracks with 3 factories. That is strange. That is not a unit comp we normally see. Tactical jump, by the way, is available as well in this Battlecruiser here, so no matter what, the Mutas should not be able to get the kill, assuming we're gonna repair this Battlecruiser. Hello, that is sloppy. I think he probably assumed that he already put those SCVs to work, but okay, well, in the end, those Mutas got a bit of value, but they really shouldn't have. Okay, Hive is coming up right now for the Zerg. What in the world are we gonna use those additional factories on, though? So he's gonna go for barracks number 6, 7, and 8 here. So this is gonna be 8 barracks production with 3 factories. 1 starport here. Starport's been very busy though in this game. A couple Widow Mines over here being a nuisance. Another Yamato cannon going down. Okay. I'm a little concerned here that Gumi is getting away with his creativity. Yeah, in the end, this is still a very scary Zerg army. It's 92 workers. It's pretty decently upgraded. Going up towards the Hive right now. It's a unit composition that we've seen many times in the past, right? I mean, the Corruptors are maybe not quite the standard. Mutaling Bane is very common, but I think Corruptorling Bane makes a whole lot of sense in this scenario. If you can prevent the Terran from ever getting a 4th, that would be massive. I would really like to see Ragnarok commit to taking, well, care of this expansion, or maybe the one over here, but at the very least, make sure that the Terran player is stuck on just 3 base economy, because you've had them occupied for a very long time, your economy is much bigger. If you're gonna give them the planetary over here, we see this very often. If you give them the planetary over here, usually the base over here is next. Usually the base over here is next. It's very easy for the Terran to expand from this position, so committing to a fight right now, I would honestly like to see it. Instead, Ragnarok decides to play the passive game. Okay, yeah, he goes for additional Banes, but honestly, as soon as there's a planetary over here, and as soon as we've got some siege tank production, it's gonna be really difficult for him to get much done. Yeah, I think the window for him to get some work in at the 4th Command Center, it's already closed. Battlecruisers in the bottom left-hand corner, they do have tactical jump available, so now that they get spotted, they're gonna Yamato and jump. Yep. Lovely place. Lings and Banes over here, though, are getting a connection, at least, in some of this army. Are we gonna continue here? Yeah, but now we're getting into a range right here of the Planetary Fortress, plus there's Widow Mines over here, too. Lovely little Widow Mine right there. What an interesting timing to finally engage that Planetary. Okay, he could have done this a couple minutes ago, and I think it would have been much easier, but in the end, the 4th Command Center does fall. He's in between upgrades too, right? So this whole, yeah, I don't know, this engagement, it worked out there for the Zerg, and I really don't mind it, but it is a little bit of a funky timing. I guess since he saw that the Terran army was overextended, he's like, you know what? If you're gonna give away half your units like that, I may as well go ahead and capitalize. Okay, so +2/+2 is coming up. Adrenal Glands is gonna finish as well in a moment. Battlecruiser still being an absolute nuisance. We're gonna go ahead and fly a new orbital command on over towards the right side of the map, but this is a pretty exposed location. Especially if Zerg decides to engage over here, then run in a few Banelings on the right side, or maybe a Zergling group. A lot of, oh, 2 massive. That's 2 siege tanks that are getting misready, but those weren't the first ones. We already had one over here in a very strange position earlier. I didn't bring it up then, but I think GuMiho is starting to lose a few too many units here. Ultra Cavern coming up, by the way, together with Vipers. So this is not Ragnarok just sticking around on a Ling Bane-based army. Command Center over there gets denied. And since there's no planetary here at the 3 o'clock position, these SCVs are in a lot of trouble. I mean, there's a bunch of medevacs. That's nice. The medevacs at least evacuate yeah, the Corruptors weren't nearby. At the very least, they evacuate a bunch of the SCVs, but when it rains, it pours. GG is called, GuMiho taps out, and Ragnarok wins a very well-played game number 2. GuMiho has places to be, okay? He doesn't have time to play this KSL Finals. Game number 3, we find ourselves on Royal Blood. And once again, GuMiho decides to send an SCV across right at the very start of the game. Now, I think he started up that barracks at like 210 minerals, which is not quite ideal. It's a low ground. Okay, so I guess we are gonna go for a double barracks opener. It's just that we're doing in a bit of, we're doing it in a bit of a different pattern than you normally would. So I think it is gonna be a second barracks right now. Yeah, okay. Interesting. Anyways, I believe in the previous games, Ragnarok went for a 16 hatch, 18 gas, 17 spawning pool. In this particular game, we're gonna go for an extractor tricked expansion into an extractor tricked overlord and then eventually a spawning pool as well. This is certainly a little bit safer. You end up getting your queens out about 10 to 12 seconds earlier, depending on your execution, which really does help against this early game shenanigans that GuMiho decides to go for. Honestly, when it comes to these creative games, sometimes I feel like Gumi gets a little bit too carried away, right? Where he's trying to do too many fancy things. Anyways, at this point, Ragnarok does see one of the barracks, which is nice, but it's just a single one, right? Could this be the same opener as what we saw in the previous game? Well, apparently not. I'd be surprised to see Battlecruisers back to back, but GuMiho is going to go for a double barracks start. Okay, so 2 drones have been pooled. I think that's good. Previously, you just pulled a single one. I think 2 drones to try and harass that SCV is an excellent option. Just trying to lower the HP here, right? So the queen is gonna come out pretty quickly here. It's important not to overvalue the bunker here as a Zerg. I mean, if you can shut it down, sure. But the bunker really isn't the end of the world. Like when there's a single Reaper in it, or maybe 2 Reapers, it doesn't really deal that much damage. But this is nicely done right here by the Zerg. The second Reaper though, yeah, it's gonna see this group of Zerglings running across. But this is a much nicer start right here for Ragnarok, right? And you can see the advantage right here of that Eric-based opener, that extractor-based start. You just simply get your units out a little bit quicker, you get your queens out a little bit faster as well, and it just makes everything a bit more comfortable. We're gonna go straight up to 4 queens here. Now finally a gas geyser though, so that gas geyser of course is much later than you normally would have it, but he doesn't really need much here. Yeah. It's gonna be a triple Reaper start, so this is, I guess, the GuMiho edition of the triple Reaper opener that we've been seeing from basically every single Korean Terran. Okay, he does end up losing one of the Reapers there in exchange for 2 drones. Not bad, of course. Zerglings in the meantime trying to be a nuisance as well, but it looks like Jimmy managed to shut them down. Okay. I still think, though, that this is not a bad start right here for Gumi. He's got himself a command center already done. I mean, a second one that is. It's finishing up right now. As soon as he morphs that into an orbital command, his economy is going to be a whole lot nicer. 3rd CC starts up as well. Okay. So it looks to me like Ragnarok finally gets to play the game that he wanted to play ever since this series began, and that is a little bit more macro-focused. Sure, there's been a lot of aggression here from Gumi. He's not done just yet. He's going to continue this aggression as well, but this is harassment, more so than anything else, right? It's not really a all-in-y type of style. Even though Ragnarok did win game number 2, I don't think he ever felt particularly comfortable there because, well, every single time you move out, suddenly there's a battlecruiser in your base, and every single time you think you figured out what the Terran's going for, turns out you haven't. Alright, Starport is gonna finish up. I'm assuming this is gonna be straight Banshee production. Yep, makes a lot of sense. Barracks number 3 is also started here, so we are gonna make that transition towards a marine-based army here eventually. I think the additional factories in the previous game, they were not quite ideal. They really shouldn't have been there just yet. I mean, I understand the desire there to go for mass siege tank and widow mine production just because you're playing against Ling Bane, but there was no way that GuMiho was gonna be able to produce out of 8 barracks together with 3 factories and tech labs all at the same time. Like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. On 3 base economy, you just don't really achieve that much. Now, I thought that this was gonna be a bit more of a macro-focused game here from Ragnarok, but I am completely mistaken. He is droning behind it, but he is certainly gonna try and deal some damage as he does finish up the Baneling Nest. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I actually, no, okay. I thought he was ready to go for a Baneling bust here. And maybe he was, but looking at that wall, looking at the Banshee, he may have decided, you know what, this is not what I'm actually gonna do. Okay, now he was moving across the map with a lot of Zerglings all of a sudden, but then droning behind it, that was a little bit dangerous. I think falling back here and not committing to a bailing bust is the right call. Despite the fact that there's no siege tanks out or anything just yet, it's definitely a little bit risky here. Especially after you finally managed to get towards a comfortable state. I think it's a good idea to try and play that macro game for at least a little while. Okay. Reactor is going to finish up on the starport. And all the roads do eventually lead towards that marine, well, medevac siege tank based unit composition. Lair's gonna finish up here for Rag, and I'm assuming he'll be going into the bailing speed together with the +1 melee. And he'll be able to play his unit composition of choice here. Is he gonna add on, I don't know, Hydras? Is he gonna go into Lurkers? Is he gonna go into Mutas again? He can transition towards Infestors if he wants to. Straight Hive is an option. Ultralisks, we've seen even Brood Lords lately. I mean, the sky is the limit. Any of the options are good. And catching a lot of these Marines here is absolutely massive. Yeah. And this is what I mean, man. GuMiho's sometimes gets a little carried away with his creativity, right? I mean, just a random group of Zerglings that happens to be out on the map. I don't think it was worth losing. How many Marines there? I think about, yeah, probably about a dozen over there ended up going down in that particular engagement. I don't think that's quite worth it. The thing is, normally Terran, they really pivot on a lot of these upgrades finishing up, and then you go for an attack, right? So losing units in between those upgrades coming up, especially when you're pretty close to that +1 melee or that +1 infantry weapons, it's not ideal. So now this push will take place with a whole lot more, well, Zerg defense, right? Relative to the amount of units here that the Terran player has. Bailing speed is just about to finish up as well. Excellent timing there for Ragnarok. Who really doesn't have that much economy here, actually. Fourth expansion is coming up right now, but I actually wouldn't have minded seeing that hatchery a little bit earlier. Yeah, this is actually something I didn't quite touch on here by Ragnarok. It's odd to see the timing right here of this fourth hatch. I didn't even really point it out because I really assumed that this one was going to be taken at the conventional timing. Normally you take that fourth hatch right around the time that you finish saturating your third, but you can see here he's not even really fully saturated here on the third base yet, which makes this game even more awkward. GuMiho is going to continue the aggression. Very conservative placement right there on those siege tanks. 5 additional reactors are coming up, by the way, so GuMiho just about to really double down on his barracks production. We're all the way up to 8 wrecks here. This is one of those games where I believe GuMiho is not planning on making a 4th command center anytime soon. Instead, he's going to be dumping all of his minerals right there on mass marine production. So, whereas most Terran players right now would be going for the 4th command center, that is not what GuMiho is trying to do. I think he wants to go for an all-out assault when some more of those upgrades finish up and when he's really gotten some value out of being able to make, well, units out of 8 barracks at once. Okay. Eventually, though, Ragnarok is gonna finish up some decent saturation. If he decides to stick around on this worker count, I really don't mind it all too much, although it honestly is a little bit late. Yeah, you would have really wanted to have this amount of drones a few minutes ago. I'm a little surprised he hadn't. Hydras are gonna need their upgrades as well before they're really useful. And now the siege tank army is looking kind of dangerous. There's not a lot of creep here in the middle of the map. Marines are gonna start pushing forward. How in the world is Ragnarok gonna be able to break this? He needs overwhelming numbers. And you can see right now, well, this game really reflected in the supply count. I think Ragnarok should have droned up a little bit earlier so he would be able to prevent these sort of attacks. This is, of course, basically an all-in. There is a 4th command center coming up right now, but it's very late. As long as GuMiho can somehow, some way drag this Zerg army off creep, I think he's gonna feel really good. Because that's a lot of siege tanks. This is only really part of the Terran army here, and Zerg doesn't quite realize exactly what they're playing against. A couple misrallied unit here. Oh god, he's thinking about it. I don't think this is the time to go. No. There's way too much Terran here to engage this off creep, unless you get a lucky bailing hit in, but nice micro right there by Gumi. Trying to back off a couple of those Marines as well, baiting the Banes. Oh my god. Well, that's not ideal. Anyways, baiting the Banes right there in a range of those siege tanks in the back. Even though that micro wasn't quite as clean as we would see out of, for example, a Maru or a Clem or a Björn or some of the other top-level Terrans, I think it's still enough. Yeah. Very interesting game here once again. I'm not exactly sure what went wrong for Ragnarok. So normally, right, you go for that saturation on the 4th. So what you do is you drone up 3 bases as quickly as possible. You take the 4th hatch, maybe a macro hatchery on top of it as well. And then you transition towards additional drones when the 4th base finishes up. But since the 4th base was very late in this game, the drones for the 4th base were also late. And therefore he just didn't have the army to be able to overwhelm this. If I were to make a guess though, it's probably because of the fact that GuMiho has been trying to tell a story of a game that is not happening. We're now 4 for 4. Dragon Skills is map number 4 in this series, and this time around GuMiho does get spotted right at the very start of the game, and Ragnarok is gonna pull some drones. Okay, now it's a long road towards the left side of the map here. It is absolutely critical that he actually finishes those SCVs before the Barracks do. Just finishing up 1 Rex here is okay. If he ends up losing both of the SCVs, I believe it's game over. GuMiho playing a very tricky series so far. You love to see it. One of the drones is not attacking. Oh no. Ragnarok, hello. Yeah, that Barracks is gonna finish for sure. I don't think the second one will. But finishing one of these Rex is absolutely critical because, well, the requirement for a factory is to have a Barracks done, and GuMiho is gonna be able to transition away from this if he wants to. Maybe he's not gonna be able to go for his original plan. But, I mean, if anybody is feeling comfortable in this scenario, it's probably Gumi, okay. If you would have been able to kill both of the SCVs before any of the Barracks finish, though, that's basically game over right from the get-go. It's gonna be a quick spawning pool right here as well for Rag, so those Zerglings, I wouldn't mind seeing them go straight across the map. Yeah, I think that's the right call. Just trying to harass the Terran player here on their side of the map, and it is indeed gonna be that factory to complete the wall off. Reaper in the main base. Trying to be annoying. Queen, however, is gonna pop out nice and early. Reaper making some cool flips inside of the main base of the Zerg, but it's not gonna be able to achieve that much. Okay, so what do we do now? What's the transition now, Gumi? It's hard to say. Obviously, these are tricky games and difficult ones to really judge. Starport coming up here as well. That's nice. But this is a 1-base Terran opener versus a 2-base Zerg. Maybe he can go straight into a fusion core once again, so he can start getting into the Battlecruiser tech. That would be nice, but it's gonna take a while to get there, and, well, in the meantime, Terran basically is not gonna be able to do much against the Zerg, especially with Dragon Skills. It has a little ramp over here. As long as Queens are controlling this area of the map, it's gonna be pretty straightforward. Not a super difficult situation to defend. Marines here trying to hunt down one of the 2 Overlords. There's another one over here. Starport is done. Command Center is coming up. What are we gonna make? It's gonna be a Viking. Okay. Yeah, so this is not a particularly committed attack here coming out of GuMiho. I mean, maybe he'll be able to pump out some Hellions and all that. Maybe he'll get some decent economy eventually. But this should be a game where Ragnarok can just make a whole lot of economy, because there's not really much that a Terran player can do. As long as he goes for a decently timed lair and he gets like defensive units out, there's the lair, yeah. I don't really see exactly what a Terran can do to try and prevent this from being an issue. Eventually that Overlord here that's been worked on by the Marines is gonna get shut down. I would imagine this Viking pilot is gonna turn around and hunt for the second OV as well, because it has been spotted, and indeed, it's being attack moved over there in that direction. Okay, I think actually Ragnarok is going into 2-base Muta. 2-base Nidus? Those are the 2 likely options. I would say Mutas are the most solid ones, but I've not really seen that many Ragnarok games lately, so I'm not exactly sure what his tendencies currently are. Considering though there's a Baneling Nest here once again, I would imagine that this is definitely going to be Muta play. Mutaling Bane on 2 bases versus 1 base, well, Terran. I mean, there is a second command center done, but It's only just now flying down towards the low ground, even before morphing into an orbital. Okay, lair is done, and there's the spire. Third hatchery. Yep. All of this is excellent right here from Ragnarok. His economy is significantly better than the Terrans. You can see that income advantage right now reflected very nicely with these graphs. Widowmine drop. Not something Zerg players play against all too often. That's actually so funny. I didn't even really address it because it's not considered to be that great of a build against Zergs. Zergs get dropped all the time, but this is a Terran versus Protoss build, guys. I mean, not quite, I guess, but it's a push that we see very frequently in Terran versus Protoss. Widowmine drop getting 7 kills. Okay. Thor coming up here as well. He hasn't seen the Spire, but I guess he's seen the timing of the lair and the gases in the main. I don't really know if that is enough, though, for the Terran player to make a decision like that, but... Double Thor coming up. Hold up right now, GuMiho. The thing is, if this would have been Nidus with a Roach Warren, what in the world would GuMiho do against it? Absolutely nothing is the correct answer, I believe. But I guess after that early game, GuMiho is flipping a coin and he's just hoping he, gets the correct answer here, right? Like, all of the units here that he's got are bad against Roaches. The thing is, this is not a Roach-based player. This is a Mutaling Bane-based army. And now the Thors are coming across the map. There are 7 Mutas available, but Mutas really suck at fighting Widowmines and Thors. This is the strangest army right here. Look at this unit composition. We're nearly 7 minutes into the game. 2 Medevacs, 2 Thors, 4 Widowmines, a bunch of Hellbats, 2 Marines, and a landed Viking. Okay. Don't recommend giving this a try in your own games. But when you're playing a series and you know your opponent's tendencies, it may very well work out. GuMiho has been behind in basically every department in this game, but somehow, some way, he plays the correct hand every time in rock, paper, scissors. GuMiho, a bit of a gambling man in this particular match. It was working out quite decently well for him so far. I mean, good defense though, all things considered. Nice bit of pickup micro here as well. The Widowmines at this point are gone. Terran reinforcements are walking and driving across the map. We're gonna go for the high impact mode, which is actually really solid against the Mutas as well. Gives them a little bit of additional range, and obviously it's just more reliable than the splash missiles. Either way, in the end, it's GuMiho who obtains the victory in the KSL Weekly number 22. If you enjoyed watching this video, please take the 1 second that it takes to hit the like button down below. And if you really enjoyed it, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you get notified as soon as future videos go live. For now, though, have a great rest of your day. Don't forget to smile, and I'll see you once again in the next one.